to awaken him. How will he find us when he comes?
Awake and ready.
And when he asks us to dedicate ourselves ever more perfectly to him, how will he find us?
Awake and ready.
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Friend, beloved God,
Friend, beloved God,
Great Masters,
Great Masters,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Saints of all religions,
Saints of all religions,
we humbly bow to you all.
we humbly bow to you all.
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
help us to be in perfect attunement with Thee,
help us to be in perfect attunement with Thee,
to feel your kindness,
to feel your kindness,
your love and tolerance,
your love and tolerance,
flowing through us,
flowing through us,
to everyone we meet.
to everyone we meet.
Make us pure beacons of light
Make us pure beacons of light
in this world.
in this world.
Om.
Oh,
Peace.
peace.
Amen.
Please have a seat. Start with some music.
Home is a green hill, home is a wind, blowing betrayal far, far away. Home is the knowledge heaven is near. Home's the end of the fray.
to these words from Affirmations for Self-Healing on our topic for this week, which is consideration for others. Consideration for others is one of the marks of a refined spirit. Many people on the spiritual path feel that since it is within that they are seeking the kingdom of God, and since they are working at developing a spirit of non-attachment, it doesn't matter how they express themselves to others. Indeed, their inconsiderateness is an affirmation of their independence of the opinions and feelings of others. If God is pleased, they tell themselves, what matters the displeasure of man? Yet by unkindness, we can never please God, who is all kindness itself. Sensitivity to others is a way of self-expansion. One truly achieves freedom in himself when he can respect their realities, because he is wholly at peace with his own. Now affirm with me as Yogananda taught, first in a loud, strong voice, but still with deep centeredness, and then we'll do it progressively softer and softer, and then in a whisper, and then mentally. By sensitivity to others' realities,
By sensitivity to others' realities,
I keep myself in readiness.
I keep myself in readiness
To perceive the truth no matter what garb it wears.
to perceive the truth no matter what garb it
A
wears.
little softer, by sensitivity to others' realities.
By sensitivity to others' realities,
I keep myself in readiness.
I keep myself in readiness
To perceive the truth no matter what garb it wears.
to perceive the truth no matter what garb it wears.
Softer still, by sensitivity to others' realities. I keep myself in readiness to perceive the truth no matter what garb it wears. Now in a whisper, by sensitivity to others' realities. I keep myself in readiness to perceive the truth no matter what garb it wears. Now mentally playing this record, by sensitivity to others' realities. I keep myself in readiness to perceive the truth no matter what garb it wears. Now again mentally, but broadcasting it from the spiritual eye, superconscious, affirmation, by sensitivity to others' realities. I keep myself in readiness to perceive the truth no matter what garb it wears. Pray mentally with me, Divine Mother, I worship thee in all thy forms, both ignorant and wise. Finding thee within, may I behold thee enshrined in omnipresence. Oh, peace. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm going to share with you, I'm sorry, my name is Narayan, for those of you who don't know. This is my wife, Dharmadevi, and it's always a joy to share our Sunday satsangs with you. And every week we read from Rays of the One Life, and these are parallels between the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. And this week is on abiding in God. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Yogananda often emphasized more often to his disciples than to the general public, but also to everyone generally, for it was a universal teaching, the importance of attunement. For divine understanding cannot be created, It must be perceived. To the disciples, Yogananda spoke of the importance of attunement with the Guru. To others, he urged the importance at least of attuning oneself to higher consciousness. Can an eagle rise without support from the sustaining air? Jesus Christ said in the Gospel of St. John, chapter 15, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered. And men gather them, and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit. So shall ye be my disciples. How can we abide in him? Jesus says, if my words abide in you. But by words he meant not only his spoken words, but his vibrations, his consciousness, of which the words are only an expression. We must abide by the teachings, but we must also absorb those teachings into ourselves, that they become our own experience. For disciples of this path, the more in their hearts they live consciously in the presence of the Masters, the more they will find the divine presence living within them. And for all truth seekers, whether disciples or not, the more they live sustained inwardly by the awareness of God's presence, the higher they will find themselves soaring in wisdom and joy. For the Bhagavad Gita says in the 10th chapter, I am the source of everything. From me all creation emerges. Blessed with this realization, the wise, awestricken, adore me. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om,
Good morning again. So I'd like to start by reading from Whispers from Eternity, this book of prayer demands by Yogananda. And this is, teach me to find happiness in the joy of others. O Mother Divine, teach me to love others and to serve them in thy name. Teach me to be true to my word, even as I want others to be true to theirs. Teach me to love others, even as I want them to love me. Teach me, O dearest Heavenly Mother, to make others happy and to make them smile. Teach me to find my happiness in the happiness of all. So today I'd like to talk to you about attunement, but specifically attuning to the divine through balance, and particularly through balancing our meditation with service. These are kind of the yin and yang of our path to self-realization. And really, we can't get there without both. We really need both. And Yogananda shared with Swami Kriyananda this kind of fail-safe in the divine law of self-realization, that we can't be fully free without freeing others along the way. And so it's kind of keeps us from getting into that selfish mentality with our meditation, that I'm meditating for salvation. I'm meditating because I am really enjoying the peace of meditation and I really want to keep it for myself. And every time I seem to go out and talk to other people or try to help other people, it always seems to backfire. So I'm just going to sit in my little cave, real cozy, and meditate with Divine Mother and the Masters. But the Masters tell us we can't get there that way. We have to serve. And we have to learn to be joyful and in meditation, in that meditative joy and peace in everything that we're doing. Our friends Narayan and Shurja were visiting last week, and it was such a joy to have them here with us. Many of you got to share in their satsangs. And they were telling us about their interaction with a Swami in India who very saintly, very clearly a high soul. And he was sharing with them how unique Swami Kriyananda was, bless you. That he said many of the saints, they come and they have deep realizations of the divine, and they can't deal with being around people all the time and being around all these downward pulling vibrations. So they go off to the Himalayas, or they go off into the jungle, or they go off into the desert. We've heard many stories of saints who do these things, and they come out maybe once in a while and to do either some small work or some big work. Like St. Anthony of the Desert came out when it was like there was a crisis in the church, in the faith of the populace. I mean, in society, it was like there was a transition point where he came out and he said, "I have seen him." And this statement changed Christianity. It made Christianity actually continue. Without it, it would have just been gone at that time. And so we see the saints come, you know, and they come in, and then right after that, people were like, "Wow, this amazing saint, here he is in our midst." And then he was gone. and many people followed him. They found him. They were drawn by that magnet of divine love, and they set up camp around him. And they were like, "I'm going to do exactly what he's doing because he's got power. He's got something inside of him that I want too." Right? So back to this Swami in India, he was sharing with them how unique it was that we had such a saint like Swami Kriyananda just with us. And we just thought, oh, he likes being with us maybe, or he doesn't mind it. But he was sharing with them, you don't know what kind of power and self-control and wisdom it takes to be able to be of that caliber of soul, so sensitive. Because, I mean, we feel it even as we start meditating. We feel more sensitive to other people's dramas and energies. We get, you know, drawn into things like, whoa, what's happening? You know, but to be basically with no veil between yourself and the divine, and to be so ultimately sensitive to Yogananda, for example, saying, I can't tell which body I'm in. I can't tell what body to bring my ego back into, because I'm in all bodies. He would told someone, you have a sour taste in your mouth, and said, how did you know that? I'm just as much in your body as I am in mine. But these, you know, it's like a whole nother level. And it's the level that we've been given to come to, that we can be in the world and not of the world. That we can mix with the world and still radiate those vibrations, of love and of joy. And yes, we have to retreat back into the self. The idea is that we just remain in the self at all times. But it's hard. It's not easy to do that. And so there's this balance of service and meditation. And so I was thinking about how we can tell sort of on the scales, what we're needing, you know, because it's sort of a formula. We put in some meditation and we're feeling good. Maybe we feel that we're a little bit more centered in our lives. But then maybe we start feeling a little too self-absorbed, because when we go in, we're not necessarily tapping into the divine self, which is within us. We're tapping into the self. And maybe at sometimes that's the little self. And maybe then we start thinking about, gosh, I really didn't like what so-and-so did. We start getting into our minds a little too much. We start getting into our feelings, our emotions a little too much. And sometimes in our meditations, we can start being critical. We can start being judgmental. We can start, you know, playing these records of past habits. And that's when we know we need to start serving. We need to get out of ourselves. Because if our meditation isn't providing us with something beyond the little self, if we're not able to tap into the greater self and get beyond, meditation certainly can help us get beyond those little records of self-doubt and of self-absorption. But if they don't, if it doesn't, that's when we need to serve. And we know, on the other hand, when we're just doing good works, as it says in the Festival of Light each week, we're doing good works, but we've forgotten the noble taper of inner communion with the Lord, when we become restless, when we're just going. It's like, well, I'm doing good stuff, but it just gets us in this perpetual, like John's t-shirt of the hamster wheel. The wheel is going, but the hamster is not necessarily going with it. But it just gets us in this movement where sometimes we forget why we're even serving. What's it all for? Why am I trying to smile at that person? Am I doing it to try to get him to smile back at me? Or am I doing it to try to share God's love and kindness? And, you know, I was thinking a lot about kindness. We've been talking a lot about it. We watched, some of us went to see this beautiful movie about Mr. Rogers that's out in the theaters now. Won't You Be My Neighbor? And I didn't grow up with Mr. Rogers, and I just saw more of the parodies about Mr. Rogers on Saturday Night Live and such. And, you know, I didn't relate to him. But seeing this movie, it was so touching, it was so moving, because here was this soul who just wanted to connect, just wanted to share kindness, especially with children. But he really wanted to share kindness with everyone. It was just that children were more receptive and open to receiving it. And you could just see these little kids who had never met him before. And it was like, why were they just so open to him? Why were they just so instantly open to this man, this, you know, older man? And because I don't know, I've gone up to kids and said, and they're just like, old person alert, you know. But what I realized it was that he was just so completely open to them and just only wanted to share kindness. And they felt that safety and that inclusion and that just spark of enthusiasm, and I want to connect with you. You know, it wasn't like, you're a kid and I got a kid's show and like maybe we can work something out here. It was like, you're a human being, you're a soul, you're divine, and I'm so interested in you as an individual spark of spirit. And they just felt that and they just light up and like hugging this guy and like, you know, telling him their most intimate secrets and asking him questions that, you know, you wouldn't even think necessarily a little kid would think about. But they did. And so it is with kindness that when we can share, when we can really just become so interested and so accepting and tolerant of anyone, if we can look at each other really as children, as divine children, and in that's why the masters, these avatars, come as babies, right? They don't just come full grown. I mean, they could actually. You know, Yogananda said a master can incarnate in full form and in glorious form and in baby form, right? So they come, even if there's immaculate conception, which Yogananda did say happened. Immaculate conception, but still as a baby, as this completely vulnerable little baby. And Krishna, we see Krishna in the baby form, we see Christ in the baby form. And these are not just to like give us something sweet and cuddly to think about. It's that this is a way we can look at each other. That we can look at each other as these divine children. And in that sense, you can't be mad at a baby. I mean, it's like, gosh, you were such a naughty baby, you know? But still, even if it was a naughty baby, which Krishna was extremely naughty, but everyone just fell head over heels in love with him. They couldn't help it. Just this adorable, helpless, in a sense, little baby. And so if we can see each other in that way, just pulling apart all the like layers of, oh, there's bitterness and oh, this judgment and this and that and this person should know better, and you know, it's like if we can just get to the core, there's just that little baby inside of there that just wants to be loved, wants to be heard, wants to be safe, wants to be nourished ultimately by the Divine Mother. We all want that unconditional nourishment of our Divine Mother. And I think that can really help us break through all the shells. We all put on these, you know, different shells. Some are, you know, sweeter, and some are like harder and tough, and some are whatever they are. Deep inside, it's just soul. It's just a soul of pure light that just wants to merge back with Divine Mother's love. That's what we're all doing. That's where we're all going. And so let's remember that for each other. And in our service, so in our meditation, we're trying to merge with Divine Mother. We're trying to offer our heart's love. We're trying to break through those veils and those coverings that make us feel we're less than a pure baby of light. But when we're serving, if we can serve feeling like we're serving other children of light, then the service and the meditation merge and become one. And then that's when Krishna says there's no difference between your action and your non-action. It's just all a divine action. It's just all divine love. So I wanted to close with this little piece from the festival because it's really exactly this balance of service and devotion. This is the story of when Jesus appears to Babaji in the Himalayas, and he's appealing to Babaji and says, the lights on the high altar of my church have been growing dim, though still lit on lower altars of good works. The noble taper of inner communion with the Lord burns low and is ill attended. Let us together, united in Christ's love, united in Christ's love, set lights ablaze on that high altar once again.